Okay, so here, just hoping to demonstrate kind of the way we could approach troubleshooting, right? I know that FactoryGirl has a create list kind of method. Let's just go ahead and let's just pop into pry first to like get some reps with that. Dot pry. Okay. So I want to see if we can just create a list where the album is tied to that album. So I'm going to say tracks equals create list, create a list of the track factory, and I want to specify album as album. Not like that. Oh, yeah, we have to define the amount. So I want to define, let's make 3 like we are in the examples with tracks 1 through 3. And that worked. So that's pretty awesome. So you look at over here at album ID, and it binds them all to that original album. If I do it again, and I say album 2, we'll get all album IDs of 2. So this is great. Let's go ahead and delete these 3. Actually, we'll just refactor it. So let's say we'll exit that. So that test failed because we were adding stuff in the pry. So let's take this line. We're going to create a list of tracks. Let's make 3. And for each of those, I want to have the album that it's associated with be the first album. And then I'm going to make a 4th track that will be tied to this second album. Cool. So then we can say run that. Should be green. Even better, right? So now we don't have to repeat ourselves creating all these tracks. We have a super clear declarative test that's saying, okay, make this album, make the second album, make a list of tracks tied to the first album, make 1 track tied to the second album, expect all tracks to equal 4, expect the tracks tied to the first album to equal 3. Beautiful. I'm pretty happy with this test at this point. We can dive into maybe ways that we can make an album with songs or something like that. So doing kind of an after callback. Let's go ahead and just finish up this test. So given what we know, I challenge you to maybe pause and like work ahead and see if you can just implement your own solution for refactoring this. But I'll go ahead and just keep going here. So I want to make an association. I'm testing that an album belongs to an artist. So let's go ahead and say that we just want an album. So let's say album equals create album. Cool. And let's say that artist equals album artist. We'll talk about maybe a better way to test this. So here we're creating an album, and we know that it will have an artist. Let's just like prove that this works because of the factory that we have for the album. Go to this and go to the albums. It has an artist by default. But what is this really testing? We want to see, does an album belong to an artist? Let's go ahead and instead create an album can have many artists. An album. Let's assert this to be truthy. So this is kind of like doing an attribute, but since it's a method, let's expect the album artist to be truthy. Cool. This means that it is indeed something we can call upon. We could also do something like we could expect album to respond to artist. But in this case, that actually doesn't prove that it exists. But in this here, we can actually say that artist, and we could do something like expect album artist to be a artist. Cool. Great. So I think this file now looks super clean, super good. We've built an album. We've reduced all that clutter just to a few lines here, and we've kind of redefined our interface for the test. So now it's much more about reading, hey, let me go into this album spec. What can you tell me about the model? Well, it has these validations that requires the title and the artist, the presence of it, and it has a title attribute, and it has many tracks, and I can see that I've built this out to show that tracks are tied to it, and it also belongs to an artist. So I've learned a whole lot just about the album resource, and it's very clear to me when I pop into this file about those qualities. So what time are we at? 5:45. Let's go ahead and jump into the next example. So here we have artist new. Change this to create or build artist. Delete this, come back down. And now we're going to be running our artist spec. Everything passes, that's great. Show to matches here. So what we want to see is that an artist can have many albums. So yeah, let's create, let's dream drive an artist that has many albums. So let's go ahead and delete this. We know we have a default name for album, or for artist. So let's get that pulled up into artists, default name, artist, and let's say that the artist equals create artist with albums. Okay. So we don't have this yet, but let's go ahead and like run with it. Factory not registered, artist with albums. So what we want to do is within factory artist, we want to say factory artist with albums do. And I want to say after create do with the artist. Since we're within the factory artist, this is kind of like a nested creation. So we're assuming that we're going to have an artist available. So that's where this artist in the pipes is coming from. I want to create, let's say, a list of albums. Let's say 3. Let's see, we do 2 in the example tied to the first artist, and then we tie it to a second artist. Okay. So let's tie it there, and we're going to set artist equal to artist. So in this case, we're creating a list of albums, a total of 2, where the artist refers to the artist being created in this factory. Okay. So let's go ahead and I believe this test will fail now because we are tying it to specific albums. So let's just see if we get an actual error and not a factory error. Cool. I did not run the actual. I was like, wait, why did everything pass? Okay. Awesome. So we're getting actual expectation differences and not differences in that. So here, to show that the artist this is actually kind of cool. So if we go in after we make all these, we'll throw binding pry. I feel like I'm talking about the matrix, and we're like, let's go into the code, right? Into the pry. Okay. So if I look at artist, I've created 2 albums with the artist with albums factory. Okay. So if I say artist albums, I won't actually get 2 for the count. I'll get 4 because I have also created them here with the artist bound to that album. Okay. So let's go ahead and delete these 2 tied to that. Let's make another artist with an album, and we can create artist. We have our timer going off again with albums, and let's go ahead and delete that. So we'll pause here and come back for another episode.